back to Rolando Estacada. My name is Rolando, and for today's episode, I'm going to give you a bit of an update on my balisong collection as it stands. Balisong ownership in the United States is actually illegal in 5 states. One of them is Hawaii, but as of about a couple of weeks ago, it is possible to have a balisong at your home in Hawaii. So this is a very exciting thing because I'm originally from Hawaii, so I like to hear that it is now possible for Hawaii residents to now start a balisong collection if they would like. And just to give you a bit of an update on my own balisong collection, I have gone ahead and placed another order with Sir Louis Almazan. I'm very happy with the collection. I'm very happy with his work. I've gone ahead and placed a pretty big order. So I'm going to, and one of them is actually going to be a design collaboration with him. So I'm very excited to update you on that. As I get more details in and things more confirmed, I'm going to do another episode on that. But what I want to focus on for today's episode is the collection as it stands and some of the things that I have learned about being a balisong collector and adding that as a category in my current knife and sword collection. Just a few things I want to let you know is that I don't really add anything to my sword and knife collection unless I'm willing to study the martial art that's attached to it. I don't believe in owning a sword or knife or basically any tool that has a martial purpose without studying the system that's attached to it. There's practical reasons for it. One of them being there's no sense in owning a tool of a martial purpose if you can't use it. Worst case scenario, it could be used on you. So it would be very smart for you, if you have any sort of weapon in your home, that you actually start to train with it, use it, and study the martial art that supports it. That's number one. So my own balisong collection didn't really get started until much later in my life because it was something that I didn't necessarily have an interest in studying, but now I'm finding that there is a lot to the balisong. So my collection as it stands right now is absolutely supported by a balisong practice. So that's the first thing when it comes to sword and knife collecting as far as I'm concerned. First, understand and commit to the martial practice that is attached to the tool. But secondly, commit yourself to the care and maintenance, not just of the practice, but also of the tool, because by doing so, that's when the actual transformation, in my opinion, of the martial artist takes place. Because on the one hand, you know how to use the martial tool, but on the other hand, you know how to care for the martial tool. So now there's a little bit of a symbiotic relationship between you and the tool. And that, I believe, is when you start to become a little bit more one with the tool, whether that's a knife or a sword, whether that's a Filipino Chris sword or a Japanese katana. The more you practice with it, the more you care for it, the more you become one with it. So number one, train for the martial system that supports that specific tool, but also commit yourself to daily care and maintenance for it. The third one is something that I got from my from my studies of Japanese martial traditions, and one of them is actually admiration and appreciation for the tool. Spend time with it. So something that I like to do, in whether it's my katana collection or my knife collection, I spend some time with each tool. So I'm gonna give you an example here. So one of them is this beautiful Louis Almazan horsebone slim type balisong. And what I do in terms of spending time with it, very simple. I pick it up, I take a look, I observe, I appreciate the craftsmanship, I make sure that it's taken care of, I open it, I admire the angles, the craftsmanship, but also inspecting it for anything like any sort of dings in it. For if I happen to have misused it, dropped it, been careless with it, right? So that's one of them. But also making sure that there's no rust, it's well oiled, and after I'm done with admiring it, probably about 5 to 10 minutes at a time, after I'm done with it, close. I take a cloth and I wipe it down. So there are three pieces to it when it comes to being a responsible balisong collector, but also a responsible martial weapons collector. One of them, so as a reminder, study the martial art that's associated with it, commit yourself to the care and maintenance, and then ultimately the appreciation of the tool. So this is the update on the balisong collection as of right now. And what you're looking at is really a combination of training tool, American-made tools, and then the Batangas blade, all handmade individually in Batangas, which is the motherland of the balisong. So I'm going to walk through them one by one, very briefly, but also to give you some of my perspective as a balisong collector. So this balisong comb that I started with, this is what started the whole thing. Bought it on Amazon maybe about 2 years ago. And as far as cleaning, maintenance, training, and appreciation for it, this guy was my buddy for about a good 2 years, because I believe that when I start a martial practice for any tool at all, it's important that I become really familiar with it in a very safe way. So all of my flips, all of my openings actually started with this very friendly tool. It was probably about $20 on Amazon at the time, and I think that it's gonna be about the same amount. So I highly recommend this tool and starting your collection with it and training with it. The rest of it are my Nabalis balisong, and these are trainers, and I spend a lot of time with these in terms of care, maintenance, and practice, but mostly on the practice side. So if I'm going to practice with any tool at all, whether it's for flipping or for any sort of tactical training, I use this one, especially if I'm doing partner training with Robin. I use this one because, number one, if I flip it open, I want you to take a look at this. This is blunt. There's no danger to it at all. It's safe, and the handle is made of aluminum. So this is a tool that I like to train with a lot in terms of both flipping and tactical. I really enjoy it. I bought it maybe about a good month and a half ago for all of the Nabalis, and these are great tools. So I really enjoy them. Very lightweight, very low maintenance, and very easy to appreciate. But out of the three categories in terms of martial training, care and maintenance, and appreciation, these three tools spend a lot of times in the training category, mostly on the tactical side, because since they are blunt, I can safely deploy them, and my training partner and I, so Robin and I can train and actually feel very safe with it. I'm now going to move on to the American-made balisong. This one is the Benchmade 85. This one over here, which I absolutely adore. This was a gift from my friend Harvey, birthday gift from him. And this one is made of a single billet of titanium. I really enjoy flipping this one. This one is absolutely amazing, and it's also a user because it is made of S30V steel, which is one of the top high-end steels. I really enjoy it because it's very light and it's also very sharp. So I like this a lot in terms of just for the flipping aspect, not so much of the tactical for obvious reasons, because it has a very sharp edge and a very sharp tip. So I use it for flipping. There's not quite a bit. Let me rephrase that. There's some care maintenance, but technically it's pretty low maintenance. All of the American-made balisongs are actually low maintenance. On the appreciation side, you can appreciate them to a certain extent, but the fact that they're all basically almost kind of bare bones, you're not seeing a lot of different materials on this. This one is made of steel, and it's made of Sandvik steel, the blade itself. This one is the Kershaw Lucha, very popular production knife. I really enjoy this one, and I'd say this one is also good for the training piece, but mostly for the flipping side, not so much for the tactical. Sometimes tactical, but that's really more for solo flow. In terms of appreciation, I really like this one. This Kershaw Lucha, kind of dark one that hasn't had that complete finish on it. I really enjoy this one. I also do enjoy the regular lucha and also the moonsault. The moonsault I really enjoy, but these four American-made balisong are very low maintenance. I really enjoy flipping them, and sometimes some tactical solo flow use. I do want to move on now to the Batangas balisong because these, in my opinion, are a whole other breed as far as the tactical training, as far as the flipping experience, as well as the care, maintenance, and the appreciation for them. So I'm actually going to start with the one that's oiled, because what I've committed to, and something that I'm going to suggest, is that when you start a Batangas blade balisong collection, they don't all come the way the American balisongs come, where they have bushings or bearings or washers where you can actually start flipping them very quickly. So just as a comparison, this is the Kershaw Moonsault. If I'm not mistaken, this is washer bearings. But then if we take a look at the Batangas blade, these are tang pins. So these are designed to flip at high volumes. This one, since it is tang pins, this one is really, when it was designed, this is made of traditional design. This was more for daily use, EDC use. So you're not going to see the same kind of high volume use because that wasn't its original intention. Could you do high volume use for it? Absolutely. You can do high volume flipping for it? Absolutely. But not to the degree as one that's dedicated to it, because you can do some tuning with it. You can re-oil it, take it apart, and do the care and maintenance for it, and then have it be brand spanking new. Whereas these Filipino balisong, you can't take them apart actually, because this is a tang pin. So they kind of age. So the more you flip it, it's going to take years and years and years and years of real dedicated flipping, but eventually it's going to develop play. And when it develops play, what happens is that, well, you're just going to have to live with that. So what I do with my Batangas blades is that I treat them more like art pieces. So with the collection that I have here, I have 8 traditional Batangas blades. I really only keep one of them all ready to go and all ready to flip. The rest of them, I'm going to use a Tagalog term here, I keep them as madikit. And madikit means they don't have, I haven't flipped them at all. And so that means that they're very hard to flip. You can't necessarily flip them open. So if I take this one, the deer handle, the deer antler one, if I drop it, this will drop, but you see how the blade still kind of stays here? I actually prefer it because I'm kind of treating these more as tools for appreciation and care and maintenance. So they're a different part of my practice as a balisong collector. So what I've done is one of them I like to flip, and in this instance, this very heavy and now somewhat popular full brass balisong, this one is heavy. I'd say this is maybe just under a pound, but they're a little scary to flip open because they're so heavy. But I really enjoy flipping these and opening these in all 3 categories: for martial training, for care and maintenance, and also for the appreciation. Number 1, for the training, it really connects me to the traditional balisong. I've had family members who are balisong owners, and they've had experience with the more traditional ones. So any sort of stories or training or advice that I get is going to be based off of this very traditional tool. So any of, let's say, the openings that I mentioned in one of my videos, the easy opening as I call it, or the Manila opening, is going to be based off of this traditional tool. As a result, I really enjoy training with this, mostly for tactical reasons, because then I start to understand how Filipinos work with the traditional mechanisms of a traditional balisong. That's number 1. From a care and maintenance perspective, out of all the balisong I have, the Batangas blades, they're the ones that actually require the most care and maintenance. 1, because each knife, each blade, I requested as 1095 steel, T10 steel. So what that means is that they're prone to rust. So what I do from a care and maintenance standpoint, so about once or twice a month, I take this. This is my absolute favorite, marine tough cloth. And what it is that it is a cloth, microfiber cloth that's packed in here and it's sealed. And it already has mineral oils in it. I actually like the smell of it because I've used it on so many of my knives. So what I do is I take my balisong, give it a nice wipe just on the blade itself. Give it a couple. See how nice and shiny it is. Then what I do is I close it. And then I take a very dry cloth, like so. Always handy right next to the collection. And then I wipe it down. Fingerprints, because the oils on my hand, especially since these are made, all my balisong from the Philippines are full brass. I really like the aesthetic of full brass, and I'll get to that in a second. And once I remove it, since they're full brass, I like the patina on full brass, but I don't want to speed up that aging process. It will come in time. Once it is completely wiped off, I set it back down on the collection itself. I do this for all of the Batangas blades that I have, and of course, it allows, to extend their life. So I wipe them down. For the blade, I wipe down about once or twice a month. And then I like wiping down the Batangas blades on a daily basis with the cloth, only because I appreciate them so much. So they get a lot of admiration. So I do the exact same thing. Take a look at it and I enjoy it. One thing I do want to add as far as my balisong collecting experience is concerned is I want to add this about the Batangas balisong is that I really like the brass option more than the aluminum option because they are offered in by the balisong makers in Batangas. I do prefer the brass version, number one, when I was younger and when I first saw balisong, it was made of brass. So there's just something traditional about it. But there's something else I do want to add about the brass option. It is a far more elegant tool. It is a far more aesthetically pleasing, at least for me, in terms of making the balisong very decorative. There's just something about leaving them out. I leave them out here and in full decoration, and they look absolutely magnificent. And the thing that I really love about it is that I can put it next to the TV, put it on a bookshelf, I can put it on an office desk, and it actually adds to the aesthetic of it because the balisong handle itself is made of several types of materials. One of them is the brass, which I mentioned, but they're also made of natural materials like horse bone, carabao horn, deer antler, and of course, precious wood in the Philippines, kamagong. So it adds this beautiful natural aesthetic to it, and it has a very masculine aesthetic to it, which I really enjoy. And of course, when you take a look at these, they don't really look like weapons. They look like beautiful pieces of art. And that's one thing that I've really appreciated as a balisong collector, because since I am also a knife collector, a lot of knives nowadays don't necessarily have that aesthetic appeal, especially the ones that you're looking to either train with or EDC. They're not necessarily made of natural materials. A lot of them, especially the affordable ones, they're made of more synthetic material, which is great for EDC, but they don't necessarily have that aesthetic to it that you see on a Batangas blade. So I like the traditional build with the brass, with the natural materials, because of that. I just like having it be so aesthetic, and I like laying them out as a result of it, and it really just adds to the overall aesthetic of the home. So as you can see, I'm wiping this one down very carefully. I'm starting at the spine then I wipe up. And so when I do the care and maintenance for the balisong, it's a very pleasant and very meditative experience. It's just a big part of the joy of being a balisong collector is that you're actually part of a very rich tradition of knife making and martial culture all at the same time. And I really think that the best days of the balisong are ahead because one, it is the growing sport. I'm calling it a sport. The growing sport of balisong flipping is just, it's really exponential with a lot of young people being involved in it, and also it's becoming legal. Even ownership is becoming legal even in the states where it wasn't legal before. I think that what happened in Hawaii is probably going to happen in the other states as well. And the fact that it's going to be happening at the other states as well, that's my prediction. I think that the balisong's best days are really still ahead of it. So that's been my experience thus far. I'd say since March, I've been a live blade balisong owner, and I've been very, very happy with the experience. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my clean out over here. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video.